Okay, so as we kind of like look back at our lives, things happen in our lives that we don't really understand. And so it's really important if you're doing your own step 4 to go back in your life, find a sponsor that's good so that they can catch the patterns as you have gone through your life. So if I worked with the guy who was looking at his dad's or his uncle's pornography magazine, and then him and his cousin, started looking at it, and maybe they're jacking off to these pictures in their uncle's fucking shed or whatever, as they carry this behavior forward, they start like treating women as objects, right? But in the same flip side, women can also be accepted as being treated like objects. So it works both ways. And so like as these guys grow up, maybe, they're in high school and now they're really fucking entrenched in this bad behavior and bad habit. And they just happen to be handsome and they have the women at their feet and they do whatever the fuck they want in this area. The problem with these guys doing that, as society like views things, and especially in like high school and 20s, it's like the more women you get, the more check boxes you have or the more notches on your belt you get. And it gives you a false sense of pride, and all guys want women. So they get this like satisfaction out of that. And then they keep mowing down women through their lives and they never learn how to build a real relationship, right? They're not developing any actual human skills. And the same with women who kind of allow that. They never build like self-worth skills, and their worth is based on how they look, what man is on their arm, and same with the guys. And so these don't build like true relationships, and they often contribute to alcoholism, and it's full of defects of character. So by the time I get them, they're like full blown addicted to something, and they don't even know that how they've been doing it is wrong. Why? Because everybody does it like that, right? So how do you like even see that if you've never taken an inventory? So it's really important for us to like really do a thorough inventory on the sex conduct. And when we look at the second column, eventually you will see where people hurt each other. So maybe in the early years, it's like, well, you didn't really hurt anyone, but it's important to collect the data. And when you're doing a step 5, it's a long talk, right? So anyone that's in treatment here and you're doing your step 5s in treatment, that's fine. Do what the treatment center says. But that's not like they barely fucking scratch the surface. They got a job to do to get you through a set of steps, and they want you to go find a sponsor who you have no fucking relationship with to tell them what? What are you going to tell them? You're going to tell them only as much as you feel is necessary. And because there's a 2-hour or 3-hour like limit with those step 5s, it's not a long talk, and you're not talking with somebody you built a relationship with. So your subconscious probably isn't going to really tell them the truth about certain things. But you think that that's your step 5, and you go on and finish the rest of your steps, and then you fucking drink again. Because the appraisal of the 5 wasn't really thorough, and you didn't build a relationship with your sponsor. The benefit of doing sponsorship and step 5s is all through step 1. I'm building a relationship with my sponsor through step 1. Step 1 is going to take like a month and a half, man, to do. And then when you get into the 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and all these other pieces of the program, you've built trust with this person. By the time you get to a step 5, you're going to actually want to get well, and you're going to probably tell them stuff you never would have told your step 5 listener out of treatment. So it's really important for you guys in treatment to like, okay, do what the treatment center tells you. But when you get out of treatment, do a real step 5, because it's going to reveal to you and you're going to get things out. And part of that is like finding a good sponsor who's well versed in these things, because it's such a critical step. Like people change their life in the step 5 because they are able to see the truth. The thing about treatment center ones, if I'm just a listener, I just sitting there. You tell me how it is. You tell me what you did. You basically run the fucking show. You've been running the show your whole life. That's why you're drunk and high. You don't want to run the show. Trust me. So me as a sponsor in the 5, I run the show. I run the show through my connection with my God because I care more about your life than your feelings. And I'm there to make some of the things that you've done okay and make some of the things that you've done not fucking okay. And in a step 5, there's a crucial piece of a step 5 where you need to be humbled properly. If you're not humbled properly in a 5, then you will usually drink again. When I mean humbled properly in a 5, and I'll get more to that in the 5, but it's like you won't see where you've harmed people. It's really important to see what your behaviors do. Where are you selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate? How many relationships have you been selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate? And we go through one by one, and you've written it one by one for all of these relationships. We get to your 3rd column. Where have you been? Wrong page. Where did you unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where did you do that? I get to see that. And I'm collecting data as you're telling me as we're having these talks because this is what's going to fucking make you drink again, man. The way you treat people. The problem is the way you treat people is the way you're treating yourself. Because reality is you don't really want to be like that. And when you start peeling back the layers of like this truth, the truth of that person is they don't want to hurt people and they don't want to be like that. But the ego needs to protect itself and has its whole life. So it's going to justify its behavior and lie to itself and look in the mirror and lie to itself. Why? Because you got to live by yourself, man. You got to live with yourself. So you have to tell yourself a lie, whatever the lie is. And you might think I'm sitting here and that's bullshit. It ain't bullshit. You just haven't peeled enough layers back to see the truth yet, right? So it's important to do this stuff at a deep level. There was something else that I wanted to talk about, but it eluded me quickly here. Oh, yeah. So when you write down who you hurt, let's say you get further in your list and you're starting to see where you started actually hurting people. And it was in your teenage years, maybe your 20s or maybe your 30s, wherever, okay? And even though there's like, I'll use women in this one. A lot of women are super nice and they don't really think they hurt anybody, right? But the selfish and inconsiderate habits of a woman and men can be very guilty of this too. They don't say anything. I've been really nice and I always do everything for them and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and you also accept this treatment. For your whole life, you've been accepting this treatment. Well, I don't want to argue with my partner. I don't want that conflict. I just want a happy household. Yeah, well, you avoid the conflict and you let him dominate you, or he revolts you because you can't even stand up for yourself. But you're so codependent that neither of you are going to leave each other. But your selfishness is you not even speaking up for yourself. You let him run the show, or the woman can run the show and the guy is like, hiding underneath something and doesn't speak his truth. The problem with avoiding conflict is you never avoid the fucking conflict because the conflict is within you. You can't possibly live and hide all the truth and think that you're going to get away with it. Because where God lives, in you, he knows. And if you keep covering up God, you get really, really sick. So what the 5 reveals is like, you need to learn to stand up for yourself. What do you mean? Well, have you ever told the truth about these kind of things with somebody that you were in a relationship? No, I never would. Well, if you don't start, you're in trouble, man. So then we finish the 5 and then they go back to life. They go back to their relationship that they're still in. Boom. That relationship hasn't changed really. because we just did the 5 now. And their patterns hadn't really been revealed, but now they finish the steps, their 5's done, they go back to their partner. Same shit happens, man. Same shit happens. And what does it do? Causes inner turmoil, but at least they have a sponsor to come to. And it's like, they're crying and this is happening. And it's like, okay, well, remember in your 5, you can't communicate. And if you do communicate, you always communicate with anger or pride. That's not how we're going to do it today. You're going to go home and you're going to say nicely in a kind and civil way, I don't want to be treated like that. And I'm going to tell you today that this is how I'm feeling. When you say those things, this is how I feel. The minute you say that, my brain goes to this and I go into fear. I don't want to live like that. And maybe they don't know how to change. And maybe you keep doing vulnerable communication, but they don't know, they don't have a program, so they're not going to change. But maybe at some point you have to leave the relationship. Well, you've never left a relationship. While you're a fucking addict and you're sick, maybe it's about time that you try. Because nothing's going to change if nothing changes. So there's all these when I talk about self, yeah, the surface layer of self is great. That's what the first set of steps do. But what about the cunning parts of self? What about the baffling parts of self? What about the stuff that drives us underneath? That's the stuff that's going to fuck you. Why? Because that's what you're actually powerless over. Just one sec, G, I got you. You're not really powerless over the substance, okay? If you got a 12 and 12, I want you to open it up to a page. I'm going to read this quickly. If you don't have a 12 and 12, don't worry. You can just listen. It's in step 4, and it's on page 50. Page 50, 4 lines down, by now. And it says, by now the newcomer has probably arrived at. The newcomer has not arrived at this. This is not a newcomer thing. I don't know why Bill W. wrote that in there. Maybe because when he wrote this book, it was actually just pure alcoholics that were in the program. But typically the newcomer does not know what I'm going to say. Has probably arrived at the following conclusions. Here's conclusions. Character defects representing instincts gone astray have been the primary cause of his drinking and failure at life. So what that says is the character defects that we can see that you will reveal through your step 4 and 5, selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, fear, jealousy, anger, levels of anger, pride, judgment, resentment, all of these things, and there's many of them. Basically, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are the defects? These defects are representing something. They're actually representative of your instincts that have gone astray. The instinct for sex relation, emotional, material security, and for companionship. Everyone wants to be loved and be in a relationship. Everyone has a desire for sex and wants to procreate. God gave us these desires. Emotional security, material security. Material security is like being secure in a house, having a vehicle to go to work, having money to live. But the biggest one that I found through the work that I've done in these programs is emotional security tops it all. People want to be emotionally secure. So the instinct of emotional security is gone astray. It'll go and it'll try to get emotional security through not telling the truth, through accepting any behavior. Why? Because I want to be loved. And if you saw that was the way love was given, then you think that's what love is, right? So, and this gets deeper as you stay in the program. So anyway, character defects representing instincts gone astray. And the instincts are where you can't see them. You can't see what the instincts are. That's the shit that drives your life. The big book talks about Selfish, self-centeredness, self-seeking, self-pity, that we think is at the root of our trouble. The root. On a tree, the root is below the surface. You cannot see the fucking root of the tree. The whole health of that tree is based in what you can't see. Your whole health of life is based in what you can't see. That's where the instincts live. So what you can see are the branches of the tree and the pine cones and the needles on it or the leaves. And you can see where trees are sick and how well they're not doing or how well they are doing. And that's the same as us. The branches of the tree are the defects of character and how you actually are navigating life. Are you in depression? Are you in anxiety? Are you resentful? Are you angry all the time? Like, what is the symptom of the branch that you're living? Because the actual root of that is below and you can't see it. And most people in this program will never get past seeing a little bit of the branches and asking God to remove it or not. Maybe they're asking God to remove what's causing it, people, but that's never going to happen and it's never going to work. So let's keep reading. That unless he is, has been the primary cause of his drinking. Number one cause of your drinking is your character defects, but it's representative of your instincts gone astray. And that is what causes your failure because you're dishonoring your core of who you are. So every time you dishonor who you are, you actually cause a failure within yourself, which causes spiritual sickness. And then because of that, you drink. Unless he is now willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects. Are you willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects? Well, you got to know what they are first. And you got to be called out on them first. You doing a step 5, listen, step 5, they're not calling you out on shit. Basically, you're doing a selfish step 5 because you're absolving yourself of all your shit and you're just getting it out once finally. Oh my God, I got it out finally. But you're not being held accountable for your actions. So you're not humbled properly. So a lot of those listener step 5s have a shelf life of about 18 months because it's selfish by nature. It's about you wanting to feel better. A properly humble step 5 is you'll be like, holy fuck, I don't want to be like that. And why is it so important to be humbled in a 5? Because 6 is the most important step to change. And if step 6 doesn't mean something, then the rest of the steps don't really mean much because it's based in self still. So a good step 5 is very, very, very fucking important to do. And then you do more of them as time goes on. And you're always doing a step 5 and a step 10 anyway. But I don't want to throw too much at you. So anyway, unless he is now willing, notice willing, it's the principle behind step 6, willing to let God remove all these defects of character without reservation, both sobriety and peace of mind will still elude him. So your sobriety will elude you because that's why you drink. So if you're not willing to work hard at the elimination, and if you're not humbled properly, you won't work hard at it. So the humbling is really important so that you actually work hard at it. It will still elude him. And peace of mind eludes him because you won't have peace of mind because if you still act in your defects, you still fail yourself. And so you're not peaceful. And once you're not peaceful, you're restless, irritable, discontent. What happens? Boom. I need a drink because I need to quiet the bullshit again. And this is repeated over and over and over. And the thing about these defects is you just can't get rid of them yourself. We've all tried. Anyone here wish they weren't so angry? Right? How's that work to just get rid of it on your own? It barely works. You might be able to resist and go, oh, fuck. And then the next time you're like, I didn't even get mad. Yeah, you did. You just didn't say it. You just went, That energy didn't leave you. It just got suppressed in you. And because everything is energy and you just push it down and don't say anything, like the woman who will never speak up, you think that energy just doesn't go anywhere? It goes inside, and it's called suppression and repression, and it gets bottled up, and it makes us really, really sick. And with a lot of us, at some point, it will blow up, and we will lose our fucking mind on somebody. And then what? Then we're very remorseful and very regretful, and there's more shame and guilt because I don't want to be like that. So essentially, we're powerless over our behaviors, which is why we need to focus on that way more than drinking. And you guys have heard me say it before. When I sponsor someone, I don't focus on the drink or the drug because that's not the problem. It's the solution to your spiritual malady. But it doesn't work. So I focus on the behaviors. And if you're willing and you're honest enough to be forthright and talk about it, and if you ain't honest and you hide shit, good luck. Good luck, man. You're going to drink or do something not good. And when you look at the steps, the first step in the recovery is step 1. Principle behind it, anyone? Honesty, man. Because you got to build on the first step as the foundation of all the steps. And if the first step is crooked because you're not honest, then everything's crooked. And the thing about this is you're not capable of honesty on your own. You have the ability to rationalize and justify the most errant bullshit that you've done or didn't do in your life because you have to live with yourself. And because society does that too, so we lie to ourselves. And if you lie to yourself, it's crooked. So that's the benefit of working with other people in this program. Typically God-centered, 12-stepped. Why? Because they get what I'm talking about. Somebody who's just in recovery but hasn't done the steps, they'll co-sign your shit all day long, and they'll just keep patting you on the back and say, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You know what? No, it fucking ain't. Anyway, G, go ahead, bro.
Okay. So just going back to the part where finding yourself a sponsor that's going to basically not like co-sign your stuff, but like what do you do when you, from personal experience, I had a sponsor who was like, okay, like you're going to go do your 5 with somebody else. Or the last time I did a set of steps, they basically sent me off to some, I don't know, place to talk to a priest. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but then you're entrusting someone, but then, like you said, to find someone who's God-centered and who's actually understanding the 12 steps, like what do you do when the intention of one alcoholic helping another alcoholic or an addict helping another alcoholic, like you're entrusting in someone because their intentions are to go through the steps with you, but they're also human and they may blab or talk shit, you know, because they're imperfect too, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do? Do you just have that process of like blind faith and trusting?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 2 things. 1, a lot of guys will send you to the Mount or somewhere to a clergyman or go do your step 5 somewhere else. That's not I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Okay? That's not my opinion. I believe you should go to a member of the program that's got some experience with it, that's good at it. And whether they're like great at it isn't the point. If they're willing to try and be good at it, then that's the point. Because they're probably been guided by somebody that's probably pretty good at it. So, and we all got to start somewhere, right? We all got to start somewhere. I work with a lot of people that are like doing their first step 5s, and they call me. They're like, holy shit, I'm doing my first step 5. What do? I just tell them, this is what you do. You pray, and remember, you're asking God for the guidance, and you don't need to have an answer every single second. Sometimes it takes a minute for God to give you the answer because you're new, and you wait. And then all step 5s, to me, new ones should take at least 5 hours. And so I say, and I give them the gamut of how to go through the resentments first. And I always say, you talk about the family for an hour. Get to know the mother and the sister and the grandma and the grandpa. And like, the more you can find out about the family, because most of it comes from family, but not all of it. My great grandpa was from Russia, and then my other grandpa, he was born in Russia, but he came over. And my grandma was very submissive, and they were Roman Catholic, and blah, 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 blah. And now they're here. And then my dad and mom, like, there's so many things that get revealed out of like the history of family that you can tie as you do the rest of the 5. And so I give guys advice, right? And I think like, so in the one fellowship around here, I'm going to use CA. CA has tons and tons of people that are willing to do all of what I'm telling you. And it wasn't always like that, but it is today. Why? Because of guys like me, because of women like Barb. And like when you guys are doing this work too, and you're like, oh, I got my job and I'm sober and I'm 3 years sober and someone's asking me to sponsor and I don't have time. And you got to remember, what the fuck? Somebody did it for you, man. And like, this is what we do. So try to make time to help somebody by doing the ceremonial work. This is ceremonial work that will change people's lives. But because we're selfish and self-centered by nature-ish, we don't want to do that. Oh, I got fucking work. Fuck, I got stuff to do. No, man, just do it. Try to do it. Try to be helpful. Try to learn. Because that's where the God dope is. That's where the fucking God dope is. The dope that you're looking for out of work, the dope that you're looking for out of dope and booze, it lies in with what I'm saying. And it takes a while to really produce. The other thing, people blab, right? You put a whole bunch of sick fucking people in one CO2 cartridge and you call it 12-step program and everyone thinks we're all well. No, we're not, right? The thing about, and I've had it happen, and I've said it to you already before, the lesson's yours, bro. The lesson is always yours. No matter if somebody says your shit to somebody else, the lesson's still yours. What, are you going to get resentful again? You're going to fucking not come to the solution of your life that can help you because you don't trust anybody anymore? Well, let's see how that works out. You have to take every part of this journey as the lesson's always yours, man, regardless. And I can say that here because I've experienced it in my life in the program. And I never went around trying to justify my own stuff because I understood the lesson's mine. And the thing about this is anyone who really cares about me, they got my back. And they're going to help me. They're going to pick me up. And I might have 70 people beacon off and saying shit and rumors, but the 3 people that really know me and give a fuck and know that I'm trying to change and do the best things for my life, those are the ones I got to gravitate to. But that's really hard to do when you've been raised in a society where the disease of validation is in us. And we don't want to be publicly humiliated or talked about. But that's the lesson. You got to get to a place in your life where you don't need to justify who you are. That's what this is about. Walking in purpose and truth of who you are, being authentic, regardless if you make mistakes. Because we are going to make mistakes. But the book says we claim spiritual progress rather than perfection. You take every lesson and try to learn something from it, including if a step 5 person that you picked beaks off about you. But typically, if you're going to find a God-centered, good 12-step member, they're not going to say shit. I don't know of anyone in my group of people that I know, especially in CA and a lot in AA. I don't know many in NA, but I don't know many that would do that. But I know that it has happened. So the lesson's ours, man. Okay, I want to finish off this piece before we take a break. So we're going to go back to 69, and we're going to finish this. Where were we at fault? Fourth column, where were you at fault? You write that down. You'll see it after you and your sponsor go through it, like as you're doing the work. Where were you at fault? I should have stayed away. I should have spoke my truth. I shouldn't have kept silent. I should have, whatever it is that you should have done. And I know for me, when I did my one set of steps, and I was like using women a lot in that set of steps a long time ago, it was like, where was I at fault? It was like, I should have been honest. But the thing at that time is I thought I was honest. I really did. I really thought I was being honest because I was being forthright. I was way more honest than I was before. But I realized as I did the steps again, my sponsor really highlighted that, no, you weren't really honest. And I'm like, no, you're right. What did I do? I gave false hope. I was giving false hope in these women, and I was lying, but I didn't know it because it was cunning and it was hiding itself because I couldn't see it. That's why I say the layers get peeled as you keep doing this work. And then I was like, fuck, I don't want to be like that anymore. And I thought I was being way better, which I was, but I want to still be even better than that to people. And then what should I have done instead? Stayed away, not contacted. I should have just, not contacted and stayed away. That was my whole pattern on my second step 5 was all that. False hopes, should have stayed away. False hopes, should have stayed away. False hopes, should have stayed away. And it was like profound. And then that was right around my second year-ish. And I fucking got really willing because I went through a lot of pain because of my sex conduct. And I'll share probably that in the 6 that we do. But I fucking got really humiliated in the program, and I hurt somebody, and I hurt myself, and I didn't want to fucking do this anymore. So that's what catapulted my whole recovery. So even though it was painful as hell, it catapulted my whole recovery and sent me on a trajectory that, allows me to live this life today. It allowed me to dig into the literature and really understand it so that I could teach it now. But it was through the pain. And I didn't know that pain was going to be the catalyst to change. Just like when I burnt my family's life to the ground and my own, and I thought it was the worst fucking thing ever in my life, and I was ready to put a gun in my mouth. So glad that happened because that's what cracked me open to a new life. And then all along the way, and the book talks about it, pain is the touchstone to all spiritual progress. So through the pain, if you're willing to learn your lesson, you'll grow through it and you won't regret the pain. You won't regret it. You'll thank it. That's why I prayed when we started. Thank you for the experiences that I've had that allowed me to push me to different fortitudes and growth so that I could free myself of that stuff that I used to think was okay. Where my ego got relief. I didn't get relief. So once we do all that in the 5, then we get to here. Okay, you've done your sex conduct, everything's done, your step 4 is finished, and then at the end, your sponsor is going to be like, okay, in this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. Directions. It's saying, write some shit down. What do we write down? We subjected each relationships to the test. Was it selfish or not? So here's a prayer. We ask God to mold our ideals and help us live up to them. So what we do is we write out a sane and sound sex ideal for our future sex life. It's like you write down what you want in a partner. What do you want? And it's not a shopping list, right? It's a principle list. By this time, you're going to have a principled list probably anyway, but just so you know, blonde, 25, big boobs, doesn't count, okay? It's a principle list. So you write down, like, I want someone who's like authentic. I want somebody who, takes care of people or has a good heart. Somebody who isn't needy. Somebody who has a good relationship with God. Somebody who is sponsoring other women and they have a good relationship with people, who has a good relationship with their kids, is a good mother, whatever it might be, right? You write down, let's just say 10 or 20 points of what you want in a partner. And then the trick is, we remembered that our sex powers were God-given, therefore good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Here it is. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. So Bill W. flips the script on you and says, yeah, that's what you want? Be it. You be it now. Why? Because water finds its own level. Your consciousness, as you try to be those things, you will attract it. So in the examples of like two toxic people, codependent and overlapping, that's two low vibrational people attracting each other. It's two half people broken trying to interlink and be okay. The problem is you can't be okay when you're broken, which is why your whole fucking step 5 is full of failed relationships. Go figure. Now you try to do it on a different plane. And then you have a sponsor, you have God-centered pillars, and now you talk about how your relationships go with people as you navigate sobriety. The thing about navigating relationships and sobriety, you've only been able to do it one way your whole life. You've never done it this way. But your subconscious thinks, because society thinks, that you should be better at this because you're 40 or whatever your mom says or your dad says. You're terrible in relationships. Shouldn't you grow up and find a good man or find a good woman? And so these things are all ingrained. But I'll tell you, dude, you've never been in a relationship in your life, man. Well, you have. Let's look at your step 4 with yourself. Just yourself. Not with anybody else. Because you're selfish, dishonest, and inconsiderate. You're full of fear, and you always wanted people to do things for you. Wasn't really about you giving her flowers so that you were fucking selfless. You wanted to get laid, bro. Let's be honest, right? You never had a relationship with anybody else except yourself. And so as people navigate early relationships and recovery, you're doing it, never have done it like this before. And you know what? There's no shame in that. And who will validate there's no shame in that? Us. Because none of us ever did it like that before. But if you go out there to your fucking uncle or your cousin and they're like, grow up, man. And their whole value system is based in the fear-based pride stuff anyway, so you don't really want their advice. You're trying to grow in the image and likeness. You're trying to change. So you got to understand that it's going to be a little difficult and weird at first to navigate, but you will get better at it. And the more that you try, the better you get at it. Why? Because your first few relationships are probably going to flunk and you're going to make a mess out of them, but that's okay. Why? Because you're trying to change. And you might even hurt them. That's okay too. You tried not to, but you will, because your defects are still there. But what happens, it reveals more of your instincts that are showing your cunning defects, and then you free yourself a little more. And then maybe at 4 years, 8 years sober, you can fucking do this. Maybe sooner, maybe later. Depends on how much God you have in your life and how willing you are to change. And then your thought life rises, and you find people that are willing to, maybe you're mad at your partner because they're spending too much time at work. In the old days, it would have been like, fuck, you're never home. I fucking do all these things, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, fuck you. I got to pay the bills and I'm taking care of you. And that's how relationships go a lot. But now you're like, I really miss you, man. I'm here alone a lot of the time, and, I'm raising the kids, and I just feel like I don't really have a lot of help. And, is there anything that we can do to free you up so that like you're home earlier or like we do more things, but you change the whole approach to how you're engaging. And because it's through love and kindness, compassion, and civility, it's received that way. And you don't get the guy fucking saying all that shit back to you or the woman. And so you learn how to communicate. And every now and then the pride's going to come up and you're going to get beat up by your own pride a bit, but you'll learn the lessons. And then through these lessons and interactions with people, you learn how to love them and love yourself. And then you won't put up with certain things anymore, and you'll do what you need to do in a good way for you. And really, this is about learning about loving yourself so that you can set boundaries out of love for yourself. You don't need to be taught by society at the workshops how to set boundaries anymore, because you love yourself. God will set your boundaries and you'll know what to do. And it might hurt, but you'll have faith in your own choices because you built a relationship with God and you removed things, and you can do this in a way better way. And that's how this works. My daughter Lucy posted a post the other day on Facebook. It was so beautiful. She wrote, do you remember what it was? Yeah, read it. Come up here and read it to the microphone though. And then I'm just gonna talk about that, and then we'll take a quick break, and then I'll finish this off. And sorry that I'm taking forever, but this was really beautiful.
Can you read why I wrote what I wrote?
Yeah, read it first, and then you can talk about.
How close should I be?
Close. Yeah.
Okay. So my dad had posted earlier in December a post saying, complaining about life, creating drama, being a victim, whining and blaming others for your problem never gets you a single step closer to your goals. Let go of the delusional thinking that you deserve better and go earn it. Work your program and you will earn a better life. Remember, the victim mindset dilutes the human potential. By not accepting personal responsibility for our circumstances, we greatly reduce our power to change them. Are you earning a better life today? And then I shared it. And I said, I respect my dad's words and actions. This respect was earned and not just given. Homeboy showed up and owned up when he needed to for me. Best teacher I could have ever asked for.
And why did you say that?
Because every time I need some guidance, I can come to you, and you always have the right thing to say, even if it kicks my ass a little bit. A lot. And I was just really grateful because it's exactly what I needed at that time. Seeing that, your post.
Thank you. And why I asked her to read that is because our relationship today it's pretty beautiful, right? And with my other daughters, it's pretty beautiful. Even with my ex-wife, like, it wasn't always like this. But through like hard work and like willingness and like a lot of pain, we've come to this point where like she's taking her own responsibility of life. Like, you know, can I mention your state? So she's pregnant right now, right? And she's like 2 or 3 months pregnant. 4 months? Okay. Hey, I'm working on it. And she came to me when she found out, and she's like, I got something to tell you. And she's like, blah, 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 I'm pregnant. And I was like, fucking great. Old me would have been a different story. But I'm really happy for her. Is the situation ideal? Fuck, I don't know. I don't think so. But what do I know? I don't really know anything. I know that her journey is her journey, and if she needs me, I'm there. That's what I know. And I know that she knows that is her journey, and she knows that if she needs me, I'll be there. But if she just comes to me for money, probably ain't fucking happening. Does she need some money once in a while on this journey? Probably. Will I give her some? Probably. But that's like, she knows how this works, and it works through intuition. It works through her own responsibility to navigate her own life properly. And I'm not there to tell her how to do it. And she can fuck it all up. which she has. And what did I do? I didn't do much. I have to love her enough to let her have her own journey and keep my hands out of her life. And through that, I can have my hand in her life. And that's how this works. I've learned how to be communicative and talk kindly. And, I've had to call her and apologize for, whatever I said or did. And she's done the same thing, right? But we're learning that all out of this. And us as a family, we're all learning it. And it's coming from this program. And it's rippling into like so many areas of life. And that's what this does, right? So, let's take a break and come back and holy shit. 10 minutes. We'll get back to the podcast in a second. The opinions expressed on this podcast are solely of the guest sharing or myself. We have no affiliation with any 12-step or recovery program. And if you do like our work, please consider visiting BILLWARDLIFE and supporting what we do. Now back to the podcast. I'm going to finish off this page, hopefully talk a little less, but I doubt it. Okay. So part of what this paragraph says is it's talking about making it right back in the step 8. So later we're going to make things right, but some of the harms is really important to talk about the harms doing a 5. So if you're sponsoring, try to get your sponsees to like reveal the harms that they've done to people in the 5. It's part of the humbling of the 5. So anyway, I'll start bottom paragraph. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow towards it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, but that'll come later. But you'll see the harms here, provided that we do not bring still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. So it's telling you here, in meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answers come if we want it. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. And then as you're trying, suppose we fall short on the chosen idea and stumble. Does this mean that we are going to get drunk? Some people will tell us so, but this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and we have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and we will have learned our lessons. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. And I can tell you, as a guy who has been around the program and watched a lot and sponsored a lot, that is 100% true. Unless we are willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, both sobriety and peace of mind will elude us. So and typically for men, it's sex relation, like, sex with women and using women, and it's finances and status in society. With women, it's a little different. Can be sex also. It's status, and it's like, comparing. Those things need to be like really identified. And there's more, but those are the bigger ones, I would say. So if we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. The number one way to relapse in your first year is to get in a relationship. Number one way to relapse. The number one way to not grow is to get in a relationship too early and stay in relationships continually. Even though you may stay sober, like I said before, the knots of self don't get a chance to loosen, and you stay stuck and you stay sick and you won't get better. You did that? No? Anyone else do that and not get better? Anyway, to sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal and for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, which it was for me, and my sponsor gave me this direction, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and we work for them. It takes us out of ourselves and acquires the imperious urge, when to yield would mean to heartache. So I read a book called Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It's a spiritual book, and there's a spot in that book where it talks about the sex mad man is the same as the drug mad man. It's the same shit. And he will risk life and limb to indulge in this activity of sex. And what it talks about is like sexual transmutation. And you know how like sports teams, when they get to like close to finals of like, the Stanley Cup or the Grey Cup or the Super Bowl, the basketball one, NBA finals, a lot of times the coaches will take the team and put them in a hotel and they keep them separate from their wives. Why do they do that? Is because the energy of sexual desire, it's such a powerful energy. It's the most powerful energy that us humans have. And when you can harness the sexual energy and transmute it, which means change its intended purpose from sex into something purposeful and useful, it gives you strength and power unbeknownst to man, and it's unexplainable what it can actually do. But when you lose the energy of sex through physical act, it actually, the book says, it depletes willingness and willpower. And when I read that, I was like, no fucking way. That's exactly what I see happening. So when we come into recovery and we get some time in, and let's just say recovery has a bullseye, and that's what we want. We want to stay sober, and we want to change, and we want to stay sober, basically. But because that energy is so powerful and the disease wants out any way it can, and it can't get out through the substance, we're trying not to let it get out through like anger and these things. It'll get out through sex. So then that bullseye of your recovery, the centerpiece, you go have sex, that bullseye that you want, it now gets blurry, and it's not actually the thing that you're going for, because you've just depleted willingness within your physiology and willpower. You don't have control of that. So it makes the target of sobriety very blurry. And then the person actually drinks because they haven't transmuted the energy into fucking what the purpose is, which is staying sober. And because the desire is so powerful and we need a release, usually people with 3 or 4 or 5 months, it's on their mind, man. So they go get that. And they find other people who have the same desire, and then they hook up. And because you're both sick and you've never really learned how to be in a relationship, they never work out, and you both end up relapsing. So, but being able to harness that's why it says it here, you jump the harder into helping others. It cures the imperious urge. So it takes that energy and it puts it into something purposeful and useful, and it gives you real strength. The problem with people that don't do that is they'll never experience what that energy can do for like your whole rest of your life in your recovery. So it's really important, if you can, to take that energy and follow these directions and not deplete it through the act of sex, to fucking harness it. Focus on recovery, focus on service, and then you set yourself up for huge success later. And I've seen that through my own experience, right? And that book was just like a light bulb. I'm like, that's what it is. I could see it in live action once I read that book. So, the last paragraph on that page. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend their futility and fatality. So again, let's look at the line. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We haven't just read them. Reading them isn't analyzing them. So the step 4 and 5 process is about analyzing data, right? That's really what we're doing. And we will comprehend their futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see the terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill towards all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have been hurt by our conduct, and we are willing to straighten out the past if we can, which will be later in your 8 and 9. In this book, you will read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced now that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. The reason why we need to do this work is because God that resides in you is blocked off by all this stuff. And so as we analyze it and reveal it and we try to ask God to help us with it, it starts clearing the channel. And that's when you lose the desire to drink. Because the restless, irritable, discontent, the self, the spiritual malady, it gets removed. So you get some peace of mind. If you have already made the decision, step 3, and an inventory, step 4, of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That's it, man. That being said, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself. And when it says like you've swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself, we're talking about humility in the painful way. Admitting certain things through this 4 and 5 is very humiliating. Looking at sex conduct and seeing how we harm women or how we harm men, it's very humiliating to our pride. So it's like, holy shit. And we need that. Humility isn't just being humble. Humility is a desire to seek and do God's will. And it comes in 3 stages: humiliation, humble through the pain, and a desire to seek and do God's will. And what I try to promote in this big book study is if you have a desire to seek and do God's will, which means change, then it'll pull you through the bottom 2 levels and you will learn your lesson in any given situation. But if you don't have a real desire to change, then the humiliation becomes resentment, becomes like bad self-worth, and you beat yourself and you go into self-pity, and you won't go through the humbling through pain stage really, because the humbling through pain is the fucking growth of trying to change. And when I say like this journey's millimeter by millimeter, that's through that middle stage of humbling through pain, trying to change, but maybe you fuck up and you made a mistake, but you're willing to learn. So through the journey of healing, it's small and incremental, but if you're willing, you will get through it. And to me, these defects can be removed. A lot of them 100%. So I'm not of the camp that says these things will always be there. I have defects that were in me my whole life that are not in me today. So I know they can be rooted out and gone. And I've seen other people have the same things happen. And like I've sponsored a lot of people in the program, a lot of the people I've sponsored, and this isn't just for me, it's just like proof. They're doing really well in their life and they've changed too. And they're not doing the things that they did. And I've seen these defects be ridded out of them too. And my buddy Jesse, same thing. And there's a lot of people that have wholesale changed and a lot of their defects have been gone. And some of them are still there, but we continue to work on them. But we won't beat ourselves up because we know that we're trying. And if you keep trying, that's the most important thing. Is even though you might fuck up and to Buddy it looks like, oh, you're still doing the same old shit you did years ago. No, I'm not. I am changing, and he knows and she knows and she knows. My close God-centered pillars know. I don't have to justify myself to you. I need to justify myself to them and myself and to God, and I don't even worry about what you say. And you've heard the saying in the program, it's none of my business what people think of me. That's the beginning. Yeah, it's none of your business what people think about you. But the problem is, if you haven't done this work, it'll be all of your business, because you can't remove that without God, without trying, without willingness. And it will drive you powerfully, blindly, and subtly, and it will destroy you. And it'll take you back to the drink. So these things are super important to work on, little by little. So now we're going to get into the beginning pieces of step 5. I'll try to get through this. It's not a big chapter, and I've talked a lot about the 5, but let's start anyway. Chapter 6, into action. Having made a personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude. The new attitude is step 2. That's what it's saying. It's a new attitude. I need a new attitude. My attitude has always been me and selfish and self-centered. I want a new attitude. I need to base my life in a new attitude, which is Creator. A new relationship with our Creator. Step 3. That's what that is saying. And to discover the obstacles in our path. That's step 4. The obstacles are the things that block you from God. We have admitted certain defects. So as you go through that 4, you're going to admit certain defects. You're going to see them, because you can't not see them. And we have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. Okay, so you're ascertaining in a rough way what the trouble is. What about the deeper than rough way? So when you do something rough, let's just say I'm doing a grade and I got a bobcat and I'm skimming off the earth and I do a rough grade, that's not good enough. You do a rough draft in university, that's not good enough. Anything rough is just rough. So you're ascertaining in your first set of steps in a rough way what the problem is. You need more than the rough way. It's like what's deeper than the rough way. So again, I just want to highlight your first set of steps is like a skim. Your second set of steps is like another skim. And as you do more steps, but primarily working your step 10 as per directed out of the big book, not on the wall and not the treatment center version, the one in the big book, you will start peeling the layers back and ascertaining in a deeper than rough way what the problem is, and it reveals what the problem is constantly. So you're constantly growing. We have put a finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out in year 5. This requires action on our part, which when completed will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. The word nature, anyone know what nature means? In the definition in the dictionary, it means origin of. So we're trying to get to the origin of what a defect is. And when I talked about the instincts, that's the origin. When I talked about going back in our lives in that step 4 sex conduct, you can see how, when, and where a natural desire may have warped you. And you will get more to the nature of why that thing is turned into a defect. And it almost always has to do with emotional security, companionship, sex relation, but it all still ties to emotional security. Even sex relation ties to emotional security, right? So nature, exact origin of. But the thing about it in your first set of steps is you won't get to the origin of it. You're going to get to a surface layer, but through working the program solidly, eventually you'll get down to the roots and you'll be able to see why you do things that you do. And it's very freeing and it hurts. But as you get used to the hurt and you get to see the diamond that comes out of the hurt becomes less fearing and you're more willing to go through the hurt because you know there's a diamond on the other side of it. And that's the humility that gets shaped out of a diamond that has all the pressure and it's been buried, and then it starts getting chipped and it fucking takes shape. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that, period. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. You taking your own inventory by yourself is not sufficient. Why? Because you don't have the ability to see the truth. That's why step 10 is massively important as you work your program. After you're done your steps, step 10 is like a key to the kingdom step. We are aware of what we're thinking and what we're feeling. We ask God to remove it. We talk to somebody immediately. It says it right in the directions of step 10. You talk to somebody immediately. And this is a spot check inventory on the fly of life. Maybe you got to make 5 calls a day. But at least you're fucking identifying selfishness, fear, resentment, something, the shit that causes your failure. And are you willing to make the call? And then you call somebody and they can help you through that. And what happens is it doesn't stay in you and block you. But if you do your own inventory with the best of intentions, you will never see the motive. That's the benefit of calling me when you're in a fucking struggle during the day. I can see the motive, or I can help you see it. And then we remove that and you can move on to the next situation where you need to call me or another pillar. And then you never carry it along and you don't add layers and block it off again. Because as you think that you're not blocking it, you are. And then this sounds like a good idea that I'm going to have a drink, and you don't have the power and you didn't choose it because you didn't keep in fit spiritual conditioning, and it chose you. And then once it chooses you and you take a drink, now all bets are off because you don't know when you're coming back. That's reality. So solitary self-appraisals don't do very well. You'll get better at it as you learn how to do this stuff. Like, I'm not calling somebody every day for all the things that I deal with, but like I've told you guys before, I've made some dumb decisions in the last fucking 6 months that I haven't had a sponsor that I wouldn't have made if I had a sponsor. Nothing's that's destroyed me or anything, but shit that I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do that. But I'm powerless over my own instincts and my defects. And I make mistakes. But are they mistakes if I'm trying to grow and learn? You know, I had someone call me, oh, I heard this about you. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm going to tell you because I respect you and you're my friend. But if you were anybody else, I wouldn't even fucking waste my breath because I know what I did and I don't need to justify myself. But I'm going to talk to you about it. So I talked to him. And there's some validity in the humility of that. But I'm not going to take calls from everybody on the mistakes that I make. I'm going to go to my pillars and I'll talk to them about it. But I'm not going to explain myself to everybody, no matter what the fuck you think, because I know that I'm going to keep trying to change and do better. And they know that. And if they see that I'm not, they're going to fucking call me on it, right? And I need to learn how to call myself on it too, which is part of the humiliation. And as you get like longer time in sobriety, it's almost like people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You have this many years or whatever. It's more bullshit. It's more validation seeking behavior. That's where I'm saying it gets more cunning. And then even spirituality. You can become spiritually superior, but you don't see it because you're all spiritual. But if you're willing to like look at stuff, you'll see like, holy fuck, that's spiritual pride. Fuck, that's not much different than real pride. And it can still hurt people. And so like the cunningness of self, it just gets a little harder to see, which makes it more important for us to have sponsors because it gets more cunning. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled in discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. So 2 things. Vital, important. Vital come from the word vitality, means giving you life. As you do this 5th step, you will gain like a fucking boost in your energy of life. You'll feel freedom because you've just let go a lot of shit that's been blocking you. But if you consistently talk about your life with your sponsor, like in a step 10, you're constantly freeing yourself of self, and life becomes really vital and really beautiful. Way different than our old life. Time after time, the newcomers have tried to keep themselves certain facts about their lives. So, in respect to the listener, step 5 from treatment, the newcomer will keep certain facts of his life. He won't say it all, typically. But with a sponsor and going through the process over time, the trust builds, the understanding builds, and they might divulge way more. Dave, can I mention our little chat? So Dave came to me at the break, and he had went to treatment, and he had said, something about a listener step 5 and then a real step 5, and how the difference was in his life and how it blew his mind when he did it with a sponsor, right? And that's what we're talking about. The difference between a listener step 5 and a real step 5 with a sponsor who's kind of good at this is it changes your fucking life. Fucks it up first. But it changes it in a good way. And then you can grow from that. Thanks, Dave. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. Remember, I was talking about stock in trade? You can't hang on to the items that are damaged and unsaleable. They'll hurt you. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility and fearlessness and honesty in the sense that we find it necessary until they had told someone all their life story. And then again, step 10s, you will learn more about humility. You will learn more about fearlessness, and you will learn more about honesty as you learn how to do proper step 10s. It's freedom, man. And as you learn how to do good step 10s, step 11 has an unlimited ceiling of fucking power you can pull from. But if you don't understand step 10 doesn't have the power that you want for vital life. Step 10 is huge for step 11. But most people don't understand step 10, and they try to do the step 11, so they only think that it's the best that it can be, when really it can be so much better. And the old saying, you only know what you know, that'll be your experience with step 11. You'll only know what you know because you don't understand step 10 and the importance of it. Step 11 will really allow you to have power. And then the other thing about those two steps work together because they're fucking together steps. Really, 10 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So in a 10, that's what 10 is. And as you work 10, you expand 11, and those two steps work together. So then the true nature of you starts coming out. The real you starts coming out, and the real you is based on fucking love and service. But you're conditioned to serve yourself and protect yourself with the ego. But 10 removes it, 11 helps, and then step 12 is about service, working with others in service. That's what you're designed to do. You will do that as a natural part of the process. And people that don't do that, my opinion, is because they block themselves off with not understanding 10. So they don't really want to because they're still stuck in what they want. But if you work a good step 10, even against your own ego and self of what you thought, you'll fucking do that. You'll work with people. You'll help people. You'll help the world be better. And then you'll experience vitality because that's how it goes. Okay, in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone all their life story. And I'll finish bottom of this page. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one that he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things that he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think that someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside of himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. So let's take this out of the substance. As we work a program of recovery and we dishonor ourselves and we don't want to talk about some of the dumb things we've done or said or thought, and we push it down inside of ourselves. You can't push it because it's energy and it's negative and it will not go anywhere. It stays and it makes you sick. The benefit of talking to your sponsor about the dumb shit that you do and the thoughts that you do have and doing your step 10s is you release that energy and it doesn't start making you sick and the vitality of life is still there. And we can live double lives in sobriety, right? We can do that here, right? And like people that take dirty chips and then say they're fucking sober. Good luck, man. You know, fucking, you know, I know that this is an outside issue, but there's a lot of pot smokers in fucking AA and CA, and they say they're clean. Fuck, I don't know if that's a good idea, man. One, you block God off. In the step big book, it says, God gave us brains to use. He gave me a brain and a body to use exactly how it is. No wound and mind-altering substances. And I've worked with enough people that smoked weed to know that fucking weed blocks off God. And it doesn't allow the channel to fucking clear. But a lot of these guys will stay in AA only because they want to smoke weed. And there's a lot of old timers that say this is just about alcohol. Keep it about alcohol. So it's kind of like the shield to allow them to keep doing what they want to do. But they won't go to CA or NA because you're outed there. And then the guilt and the shame has to be looked at. But you can't hide that shit, man. It makes you sick. And eventually you probably drink over it or whatever. So just again, as fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside of himself. Just remember that line. You can't push shit down. It has to be revealed. Don't push it down. Whatever it is. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That's what it does. It causes anxiety, man. Causes fear and tension. Causes more manifestations of self. Remember when we did the fears? I said it sets in motion trains of circumstances that brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. Well, that's the decision to not say anything and push it down creates anxiety and all these other things. And I can't go out. No, I can't see you. It sets in motion trains of circumstances that aren't really healthy or good. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth. But we will tell a God-centered 12-step member who is like us the truth. Maybe it takes time, but they will. I will eventually tell somebody the truth because I know they know me. But I'm not going to tell a doctor the truth. I don't even relate with them. It's clinical and I might use you as a relief valve, but a lot of the relief valve doesn't really do anything because my heart's not connected to the psychologist. Once I get a sponsor and I talk to people and I get to know people, they care and they're listening. And I will tell them because the love component is there where it may not be in a psychologist situation. Love is kind of the catalyst to all this stuff like working. Psychologists, they are only allowed to do certain things and they won't open their heart. They won't tell you about their story. But I'm going to tell you about my fucking dumb shit I've done exactly like you did. And I might even high five you because we're so stupid together. Right? Good possibility, right? Oh, you pissed your pants? Me too, man. Right? Whatever. It's the first time I ever heard anyone talk about pissing their pants was in the program. I was like, did he just say he pissed his pants? Or he pissed his pants all the time? It's like, what the fuck's going on here? But then it just becomes old hat, eh? And then the whole room's talking about pissing their pants, shitting their pants, or whatever it is. And it just makes it like, it's just like, okay. And then we laugh at it. And we laugh at the stupid shit we did high on drugs and high-speed chases and all this stuff. And, you know, if you had like a normal person come in here and listen to us, they'd be like, you guys are fucking nuts. But that's the beauty of this. We can be real. They call that the real world. This is the fucking real world. This is where we can be real and tell the truth and say things that matter, right? And that's what matters. Anyway. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we are honest with no one else. Small wonder why in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chances of recovery. So anyway, thank you very much for a great session. We will finish this step 5 off next time and get into step 6. Make sure you have your 12 and 12s because we will be in the 12 and 12 for a good chunk of the next few sessions.